Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the movie Casablanca. And I really enjoyed this. I'd seen it on TV, decided to on-demand it, and then later on found out that we had it on Blu-ray. But I really fucking enjoyed this. I really can see why it's a classic because of the dialogue, the characters, the effective use of set design, where, yeah, it doesn't seem like they do much with it, but they effectively utilize what they have there. It's like, oh, okay, just sticking with these kind of ones, figuring out what's kind of going on. Now, it was made in 1942, set in 1941, December, as we're trying to see what's kind of going on. It gives us the lowdown of, like, pretty much World War II is happening. You get your credits pretty much at the beginning, as older movies sometimes do, and just giving us a rundown that France is occupied. Most of the refugees kind of fleeing from German occupation are making their way through Casablanca to try and get to Lisbon, Portugal, to get to the United States. And that's where we've got everything kind of going on in Casablanca. We see open up on what's going on in this market. We see that somebody was carrying letters signed by a general that would pretty much allow you to get anywhere. And it had been killed two German carriers that had this. We see that people are fighting for the freedom of France as well, because Germany occupied France, and we get that this is French-controlled Morocco? Let me see. Casablanca. In Morocco, yes. And that we see that we are introduced to Rick Blaine, Humphrey Bogart. He's got Rick's Cafe American with various different kind of locals and everything. We see people trying to get to the United States, different kind of nationalities as well. We see that we've got the piano player Sam doing all these kind of songs. He becomes important because he's a close acquaintance with Rick, because him and Rick and Ilsa were together in Paris before, of course, the Nazis came and took over France. As we learn throughout the movie, we see that they were supposed to leave together on this train, but Ilsa sent a letter to Rick that she loved him, but couldn't come with him, and that they didn't really ask about each other's pasts. And we see this pretty much as a flashback as Sam is playing this song that is really important to them, because Ilsa comes out with this Victor Laszlo dude, and that he is like this guy from Czechoslovakia. He is an important leader in the underground, and they can't arrest him without setting off some kind of crazy stuff, as we get Major Strauss from the Germans trying to deal with him. First thinking that, okay, let's just keep him in Casablanca, that way he can't do shit. And they're like, well, this dude's pretty dangerous, because as they are, we have the Germans pretty much doing their own kind of song, and then he pretty much gets up the rest of the bar pretty much singing the French national anthem, and it of course makes the major be like, we need to kill this motherfucker. This of course puts, let me see. Renault? Yeah, Renault is trying to keep the peace as best as he can, even having to shut down Rick's bar because of gambling, which he then gets the winnings. It's kind of smart as we see everything kind of going on. Like, he's trying to pretty much bribe and get whatever he can out of here. But then we see that Rick starts becoming more like he used to in Paris, where he's at first in Casablanca, he really doesn't help anybody else, tries to stay as neutral as possible and stay out of everybody's affairs. But once Ilsa pops up, she starts bringing out more of him that he used to be, this freedom fighter. He fought against the fascists in Spain as a gun runner. He then, of course, linked up in Paris and then escaped the Nazis there, and decides to kind of take upon that again at the end of the film. Let's see. We also get Signor Ferrari, who is pretty much the Blue Parrot owner, trying to pretty much fuck around with Rick. Everybody's trying to get these papers, and this Ugarte was like trying to be like, "Hey man, I got these letters and everything." But of course, he gets arrested for that and keeps. He hid them in Sam's piano. And he's like, "Huh, okay." But we learned that he died without revealing where the letters were to anybody else. And the thing is, Ilsa leaving him like she did really threw him for a loop. And we find out that she is married to Victor Laszlo. And she got together with Rick pretty much after she thought he had died in the concentration camp. But of course, she then learned that he wasn't, and that's why she got back together with him. Let me see. Oops. And of course, Laszlo kind of wants to try and figure out how to get the letters and everything. Ilsa tries to get them from Rick, first being like, "I'll do whatever you want," and then like, "We need those letters." And he's like, "Hold on, let's..." Telling her pretty much to shoot him. But once he kind of figures out and Elsa kind of comes clean, he kind of becomes a little bit better. And then we also see that the resistance is having their own kind of like little get-togethers, and we see little bits and pieces as throughout the film. But of course, we see this one dude who, what's his? Because Laszlo and the waiter Carl pretty much pop up. We're like, okay, get her out of here. Let's figure out what's going on. Of course, Laszlo gets brought in on trumped up charges. Rick pretty much plays off on Renault, being like, "Listen, you'll get Laszlo, you'll get your feather in your cap. Me and Ilsa will escape with the letters. You pin the letters on Laszlo, we escape." However, we get the twist at the end that Rick sets them both off to Lisbon, and he kills the major, and Renault's like, alright, fuck that shit. And they decide to kind of go off and fight the Nazis together, which is kind of like, oh, okay. It'll be interesting how that kind of works out. I know it's kind of condensing everything pretty quickly, but it's an interesting ride because we get the whole, here's looking at you, kid, and all those kind of lines that are usually associated with the film, but given into context, it just works very well. You really feel for Rick as he is first shown to be kind of cynical, playing both sides, really not trying to kind of stay as much out of conflicts as much as possible, showing that Ilsa's leaving of him really deeply affected him. But once she kind of comes back, we see him helping out this one couple that Renault was pretty much just gonna like bang the wife and whatnot to like kind of like get them letters or whatnot, but he decides to then just have the one dude, even in his illegal gambling den, well, illegal, his gambling den, which sometimes is legal, sometimes is not, because that's how the Nazis roll, and anybody that's like trying to get any kind of corruption and everything, because that's Renault's like, oh, this gambling den. That's why it's so kind of humorous that he's doing this. And then, here are your winnings, sir, as he takes the winnings and just stuff them in his pocket. And Rick just helps out this couple with that money and everything. And it's important to kind of get that flashback in the middle. I'm very always kind of leery on how flashbacks are done, but I really liked how this one was done as Sam is playing the song, bringing forth those memories from Rick. That's a good framing device and mechanism there to get that, as we see how Rick remembers it, what was going on. They really didn't do too much, but they had a nice kind of time there as the Germans pop up and force everything and everybody on their own kind of ways, as Sam and Rick need to escape, and Elsa learning about her husband's survival. And it's a funny kind of thing. Since the dude's name was Laszlo, I was thinking, oh god, What We Do in the Shadows show, Laszlo Cravensworth, would have had a ball in this, like, I was that dude. That was, like, he'd probably be like, that movie? That Victor Laszlo is based off of me. That was my Jackie Daytona, like, one of my Jackie Daytona kind of days or whatnot. But Victor Laszlo is an interesting character as well. He is definitely trying to fight against the Nazis, understands the information he has for any kind of resistance cells, mainly within Europe, is an important kind of bit. And the thing is, they needed to put the timeline very interestingly, because the United States has to be neutral at this point to work out like this. And even putting it in December of 1941 is a very, very close-ass choice, because it needs to be pretty early before Pearl Harbor happens, and of course, setting off the United States entering World War II on the side of the Allies to fight against the Axis powers. But we see that Rick cannot abide, like, as he gets to the end, we see him being reawakened, and that's a really cool reawakening, because he's not trying to be a complete and utter dick to Ilsa, but he is not happy with her kind of popping in and how she's kind of popping in, and even asking her at the end, who do you love, kid? Who has you most? And then Rick makes the decision of, like, listen, he needs you to do what he needs to do to fight these assholes. And he steps back and sends them both off. Because he then goes from being angry and bitter about what happened in Paris to accepting the positivity of that Paris happened. He met this wonderful woman and making it a positive experience for himself, while still understanding the negativity he had from it, but not letting it rule him, and being for the greater good and for the rest of these people, and to be a better person himself. He lets her go with Victor so that way they can do what they need to do and fight those Nazi bastards. And Ronaldo at the end, you're thinking he's going to probably turn him in, and he's like, you know what? Fuck these Nazi assholes. He throws away the Vichy wine, which of course, Vichy France under the control of Germany, and decides to go off and potentially help Rick. Those kind of character developments work very well here, and I'm like, oh god, this is like almost 2 hours. It's not quite 2 hours, and you're introduced to this asshole Renault as he's just doing his shit, plying his trade, and being a corrupt dude, playing both sides, and then at the end, because of what Rick has done, and what else he's kind of gone through and seen, he decides to change as well. And it doesn't, I mean, I can understand if someone says, this feels kind of fast and forced, and I can understand that. It didn't feel that way to me. I think there's a nice kind of setup of, we get the defining characteristics of these characters as they're set up, as their dialogue works and is moved throughout this piece to then set up these turns. But I could definitely understand not agreeing with that stance. I get that. I just think that they did it very well with nice, strong dialogue, which is hard to fucking do. I mean, they still had corpo assholes that you had to deal with back then. And then this still is kind of threading that kind of line. But it's probably because of how it, well, like, when it was probably made. I mean, around those times, depending upon what was going on, it was much rarer in the beginning days of the U.S. potentially being involved in World War II for having things to be like, fuck them Nazi bastards, and like cat punching Hitler and shit like that. Those, before they got in and decided to be like, yeah, fuck those assholes, and then it would ramp up propaganda-wise. But I think that they did a good job of showing the kind of political tension and everything going on, while still being like, yeah, these guys are assholes, fuck them. And without explicitly, like, putting that, though, I'm fine with that being explicitly put into any media. If, yep. Even if it's just out of nowhere, just like, fuck them Nazis. Yep. Always need that. But it the chemistry also works very well. You see the chemistry between Ilsa and Rick, and Ilsa and Victor. And you could definitely tell that she has a hard time with both of them. This movie wouldn't work as well without the actors and the content and the direction. This would need... If all these parts were not moving as in tandem as they were, this movie would not be as good as it is. And how it's like pretty much talked up to be. Because I was like, alright, let's see what's up with this movie if it's as much of a classic as people have touted it to be. And to me, it is. It really... I don't care if a movie's done in black and white or color. I don't consider that to be a showcase of quality. It's an artistic choice. Is there a reason for it? Like, if you didn't have access to doing it in color. Sure, okay. Are you doing it to show black and white and gray? Or thematic kind of stuff? I'm always interested in that kind of stuff. They fucking nailed it. And I'm like, wow. I was very surprised. I'm like, this is one of the ones where it's like, okay, you got me. What other kind of ones would I be looking at to kind of see and talk about? It just worked. And Sam, he felt like a partner with what was kind of going on with Rick. Would be like, okay. He's the one in charge of the music and the entertainment. If he's not on point, people aren't happy. People aren't drinking as much. People aren't like coming in and out. You see that Rick does his own kind of womanizing, but only to a certain kind of degree. Not on the level of Renault. Because we see someone is like, come on, Rick, I want to be with your ass. And it's like, no, thank you, go away. There's just a lot of good stuff that kind of goes on as we build up our characters, understand where they are at their certain kind of points. And then before the plot kind of comes in a little bit more, other kind of characters come in and kind of showcase and get us to our inevitable conclusion of Ilsa and Victor going to Lisbon and Rick and Renault kind of going off on their own. Though I think that they would have to move pretty much faster since Rick pretty much killed a major in the German army. I'd be like, oh shit, they gotta kind of book that fucking shit. But I enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this. There's violence. Some people get killed and shit, but you don't really see any blood or anything like that. So it's kind of hard to kind of gauge that. Like I would say, be careful because like we get like 2 major deaths in here, but they're not as graphically portrayed as I would say nowadays. So it kind of depends upon what you feel. It's definitely a period piece, so if you're not into really period pieces, I would steer clear. If you're into character, world building, and a nicely paced plot, I would definitely recommend this. Especially if you're into a character depth and development. That is where this shines, as they utilize that to focus and move the plot along. So, I would definitely recommend this. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.